Cool. So yeah, as I said, I am Lex Neville, aka Gavin Eckhart, in my professional life. Lex Neville in the metaverse and DJing and music and things. And I've been working with audio and immersive audio and audio you can't even hear for a number of years now. And it's kind of exciting to share a couple of insights and tips, techniques, and hopefully you guys will get a bit more knowledge about audio and make audio better for your projects, your videos. The workflow I'm going to focus on today, once we've gone through the bits and pieces, is mostly to do with, like, say, 360 videos and implementing those for Facebook and YouTube. But obviously the techniques and tools can be used for many different environments, which we will talk about as we go through it. So yeah, let's see the time here. Let's give it another couple of seconds, see how many people we got online. I think we got everyone in. Yeah, wow. Gee, I feel like I'm talking to the world here. I see a couple of familiar faces and some new people too. So welcome to the MVC. And we are going to thunder on with this little slideshow and discussion about what immersive audio is. This is what we're in for. We're going to talk a bit about the intro and the history of sound recording and some useful terminology that gets bandied about for the rest of the presentation. Once we've gotten through the nuts and bolts of it, we'll talk about ambisonics. What is the concept of ambisonics? How do we record ambisonics? And how do we mix ambisonics? Like, what is the processes that we go through? Once we've discussed some of that mixing stuff, we will implement the practical mixing of ambisonics, hopefully with some Reaper ambisonics toolkits. I've got some of my early forays into ambisonics queued up. Those are the ones that I could find the most easily. And then I'll also look at Cubase with the Facebook 360, which is also a free plugin. And it's actually a whole plugin suite. It's also got what I call the FB360, and they call it too, the FB360 video encoding app. And that allows you to embed your ambisonic mix into 360 videos. It's very effective. We'll go through that pretty briefly. It's kind of very straightforward. There are some tricks and like things that I'll discuss along the way, and in terms of installing it and getting it running. It's not always as simple as one hopes it would be, and there's some bumps that I found along the road. Then at some point we'll discuss what the other plugins are. There's a lot of other juicy plugins to look at and consider when it comes to ambisonic audio, and of course DAWs being digital audio workstations. There are a couple more of those that other people prefer, and I think it's really just a preference. It's not like Unity or Unreal. It's kind of like everybody has their own thing, and I'll discuss some of the strengths and weaknesses of various of those DAWs. Obviously, I have my own personal preference, but you know, it's good to know that they're out there and that you can get something out of them. And maybe you already own one, or have tried one, or know someone who uses one, and then you can start looking at improving your projects and audio soundscapes through those outlets. Then eventually, right at the end, if we've got time, I hope we've got time. Assuming we'll probably have time, some live immersive sound design. So that's taking the ambisonics back out into the field, implementing it into venues, bespoke audio environments, all the different sort of softwares and ways of doing that within object-based mixing and some wavefront synthesis. I mean, it's really just like more interesting shit with sound. I hope you enjoy it. And please, please, please feel free to jump in at any point if you don't understand something, if you'd like a bit more clarification on something, or if you just want to say that's cool. I'd appreciate it. You know, distractions are always welcome in these kind of environments, despite what they might tell you at school. Cool. So, intro. What is spatial audio? Now, mono audio was the beginning of audio when they first recorded it. It is not a disease, but it's actually basically the concept of one single audio source that comes from one microphone and is then played back through one speaker. Obviously, extrapolating on that, if you had two speakers and you played the same source in both speakers, you'd have dual mono. That wouldn't necessarily be stereo. because the next thing is stereo, and stereo came about because someone was listening to mono and they were like, wow, I mean, you know, his master's voice is good and all, but imagine if his master had two voices, because I've got two ears. And they realized that our ears are able to localize sound from left and right by the time difference that occurs when a sound occurs on your right hand side, and there's like a tiny little split second difference, but your brain's so brilliant, it picks that up and it says, wow, that sound must be on the right because I heard it in this ear before I heard it in this ear. I don't know if these things mirrored, maybe it is like on Zoom. But yeah, so we've got two ears, and someone said, wow, stereo, cool, that's amazing. Then they said, oh, well, if we can have two speakers, why not have four? Because I hear sound in nature coming from all around me, from different places around me. And oddly enough, sound never comes from two places, the same sound from two places in nature. That never actually happens. Sound always is localized to one single point, and only in digital audio and where we can split sound up and send it to two different speakers does it ever occur in that. So that's just a little tasty tidbit. But while they were doing the surround sound, somebody figured out that they could do a sphere of sound. And so they just came up with this concept of ambisonics, which is this whole like round globe that's like immersive, and you can be a point inside that globe, and you can have sounds that are all located all around that. And how they did that, we shall discuss and see. But it's really cool because it actually comes around the 70s, which is the same time that they started developing quadraphonic and 5.1. So, big question for everyone. Feel free to jump in and let me know. How many channels do you need to record to make an awesome audio experience? Of course, technology has been changing rapidly, and it's so difficult to keep up with all these things that have been changing. And bearing in mind that we've been recording audio way before we had Nintendos. So that's like the 1850s. That's nearly, I don't know, 130 years of recording audio. It's not bad. How many channels do we need? I don't know. Okay, don't all shout at once. The answer is just one. Because
I was going to say one.
Well, you win there.
One was my answer as well.
Okay, I'll give you a bit more time. Maybe there's some latency. I'm probably just talking too fast. Okay, hold on. I'll refresh.
Is it one?
It is one. It is one because you can do so much with one channel of audio, especially nowadays with digital audio workstations. You can take that one channel, you can split it up, you can break it down, you can really use our free software that we're going to discuss to make that one channel into an amazing experience. Obviously, very good. So the earliest recordings were done in mono long before mics and speakers were even invented, even before electricity, because sound is really a vibration in air. Stop me if this is too basic, but I thought it was interesting. And I've never seen a phonautograph before from 1957. What they did is they took a lamp blackened cylinder and it engraved into that like lamp blackened cylinder the waves of the sound moving a little stylus on a membrane. So when you then spun the cylinder back, you could actually hear that membrane moving, and it removed the air and pushed it back out. So that was like one of the earliest forms of recording in mono. Fascinating. I don't know, blows my mind that you don't even need electricity to record sound. Obviously later on, Edison and his telephone and all of that sort of thing used electronic ways of the same thing, basically moving a membrane, storing that information as an impulse or an electronic signal, and then replaying it out through amplifiers into a speaker. And essentially, I mean, just a little another tidbit, a microphone and a speaker are identical in their design. They're both moving coils with a membrane. Obviously, there's some discussion around that. But yeah, it's quite fascinating. If you put a microphone signal, you can use a microphone as a speaker. Not very wise, but you can use a speaker as a microphone, as I've done many times with my headphones at a gig when I've run out of mics. So, cool tidbits. Then stereo came about in the 1930s by a brilliant guy, Alan Blumlein. He was at EMI. It's a record company. He used two microphones and set those two microphones onto a lathe disc with basically two grooves at right angles to each other, and managed to get the needle to move in such a way that it represented a difference between left and right. And then those two signals were then sent to two speakers. So the whole point of this is that it was a specific set of inputs sent to a specific set of outputs. And here you can see, as we discussed earlier, how there's a time difference between the left ear and the right ear, and your brilliant brain is able to discern that as a spatial location. So it's really like a brilliant thing in your mind that keeps you hearing left and right. And being able to capture that and reproduce it was also breakthrough. It wasn't really till the late 70s when it became like popular to actually output it, as they always keep us in the dark, these record companies. So in the 70s, lots of audio research went on. They decided that 2 channels were not enough. They started using quadraphonics to create a much more immersive sound field. But again, using 4 microphones to 4 speakers, 5.1. They tried 5 microphones, all facing almost in a similar orientation to the speakers that you see here. And they realized that although that was immersive and interesting, and you could hear, say, the reverb of the hall behind you and the musicians in front of you, it wasn't really enough to trick the listener into feeling like they were in the hall. And it was like most listeners are not competent, especially in those days, to set up a whole big fancy setup. And they didn't have post-production tools that were really capable of making it more immersive and actually overstating the fact that that surround space, was separate from the front left. And so it didn't really catch on until probably the mid-90s, when DVDs and digital distribution of multi-channel audio really sort of took off, and theater goers now wanted that experience in their home, and the technology and cost to effective ratio made it worthwhile having your sort of surround sound at home. Again, most people who have surround sound, I've never actually seen them set it up right in a general consumer thing, but that's just a side point. Ambisonics was developed around the same time at the British National Research Development Corporation, much more official than a bloody record company. And they discovered that they could actually capture an entire sphere of audio in a various number of microphones, and then reproduce that in such a way that it covered sound sources above and below you and was able to fully immerse you. And what the most important thing about Ambisonics breakthrough was that it wasn't specific to a certain speaker arrangement, whereas mono, you need 1 speaker, stereo 2 speakers, 5-1. The name is kind of obvious. You need 5 speakers and a sub. Ambisonics is this format that's able to be manipulated, and it's able to be folded down to 2 channels, 1 channel, 5 channels, 7 channels, etc., which we will discuss more detailed right now. Ambisonics is a concept. The concept of ambisonics is using a type of audio that provides a representation of sound that can completely surround the listener, this globe that I've been speaking to. It's like an audio skybox. And it allows you to spatially localize ambient sounds within that globe. And of course, it's very useful for 360 videos and, typo gaming applications. Ambisonics are stored in a multi-channel format. So instead of mapping each channel to a specific speaker, the Ambisonics represents a sound field in a much more generalized way. You can rotate the sound field so that the front is at the back. You can have your head moving within that sound field, so the sound field stays static while your head moves around it, which of course is how we have it in VR. And that's how we're able to use the cocktail effect, which is the brilliant way that your brain can hear things that you're looking at much more clearly than things that are on the side. And you'll know this from being in the MVC on any given Thursday. It can get quite noisy with people speaking all around you. But if you can see who's talking, somehow your brain is so much better at hearing what they're saying than all the background noise. You can also decode this into a sound field that matches your speaker setup, including, of course, binaural headphones, which is what a lot of people are doing in VR because they don't have big immersive sound field speakers around them, and that would be weird. So unlike the other multi-channel formats, it does not carry these speaker signals. We're just reiterating this. What it does carry is a sound field called B format. This B format is then intelligent in that it is able to be decoded. So you basically tell the B format, you say, I'm listening on headphones, and then it'll decode it to headphones. You'll say, I'm listening on a stereo speaker setup, and it'll decode it to that. Incidentally, while we're on the topic, stereo and binaural are not the same. Because when you're listening to stereo speakers, your left ear will be closest to the left speaker, but your right ear can still hear that left speaker. So there's this occlusion effect that happens where your head actually filters out that sound, and on the right side, your right ear is closer to the right speaker, but you can still hear both speakers in both ears. So binaural basically means listening in headphones where you don't have any crosstalk between the speakers and ears, and stereo means specifically that you're listening in speakers that are able to be heard by both ears. So that's just a little side note if you ever wondered what the difference between stereo and binaural was. So now the extra SEP allows the creator of these sounds to think in terms of source directions rather than loudspeaker placements. And so it gives you a lot more flexibility in positioning your sound sources and the things around you when creating, especially in like 360 videos. Obviously, when we're talking in Unity, it's a slightly different thing, but there's still quite a lot to be said for immersive sound fields within the object-based environment of Unity, which we'll get to. So despite its technical foundations and many advantages, ambisonics obviously has not been until recently a commercial success and has only survived in niche applications among recording enthusiasts, mainly because it's really difficult to decode those things and tell the ambisonic B format what are you listening on. Now that we've got smart computers, VR headsets, gaming engines, and things like Apple Music and localized headphones, you can actually, it'll tell the B format how it needs to be decoded, and the DSP, the digital signal processing we have, will be able to then give that information correctly to your listening environment. So that is great stuff. When we're talking about ambisonics, what is ambisonics? Ambisonics is essentially a collection of signals. So when we look at the top graphic here, it's a big sphere. And that sphere would be considered an omnidirectional microphone in like sound engineering speak. That means that you're getting an even number of frequencies and volume from all directions. That's called the W channel in ambisonics, and it's present in all forms of ambisonics. It's kind of like your general noise factor. Then to record first order ambisonics, or FOA, you need 4 channels. So essentially you've got one figure of 8 mic pointing to the left and the right, one figure of 8 mic pointing to the top and the bottom, and one figure of 8 mic pointing forward and backwards. And these are called your X, Y, and Z channels. And so when you combine those 4 channels, so the top 4 in the pyramid, you get the first order ambisonics. Oops, hello, there we go. That's what the mic looks like. Damn slides. I'm trying to draw on it. Second order ambisonics is 9 channels, and as you can see, it includes everything in the top. So it basically then creates 2 figure of 8 mics in the different planes. One of these, I don't know, what do you call it? A donut and a droplet. I'm sure there's some names for these things, but I'm not that technical. This is pretty esoteric stuff. The bottom line is that every different order of ambisonics has a different number of channels based on this pyramid. So the next one up adds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would add 9. So then another 9 channels, then 11, then 13, and there's some complicated math that you can use to calculate these channel numbers, and polar patterns is what these shapes are called on a microphone. Cool. So this is a first order ambisonics microphone, and as I just mentioned, the channel ordering used in the AmbiX format as opposed to the FUMA format, which are the two sort of competing popular names for the types of formats that there are, because nothing's really been solidified because it's been around for so long. Different people went down different paths, kind of like Betacam and VHS, for anybody who's old enough to remember that stuff. The ACN, which is also AmbiX, stands for the ambisonic channel order, inspired name. The main difference with the FUMA is that the orders are slightly different. One is WXYZ and the other one's WYZX. Why they would do that, we don't know. As I mentioned, W is the omnidirectional signal. X, Y, and Z are the figure of eights in the X, Y, and Z direction. So similar to Unity, you get your 3 dimensions and you're able to record a different audio source in each direction. And that essentially, using the time difference between them, calculates the spatial orientation. Now, the reason why you'd want to use 9 channels of ambisonics is because it gives you like way more spatial information. The differences between the mic are the same, but there's more microphones, so you're able to get a much more accurate representation of the sound that is around you, above you, and below you. So this is why we'd even go up to 3rd order ambisonics and record with a microphone that has 16 mics with multiple polar patterns to get this really grand sense of sound around you. Now, this is a quote from Boom Library. Why we don't use ambisonic microphones, even for VR. Boom Library has this thing basically saying, if you read that quote, that most microphone technologies are not immersive enough. They give you glitches and artifacts when you try and manipulate them. They don't give you a lot of critical detail amongst these recordings, and they're just not really powerful enough to give you a really immersive soundscape. So using a mono boom or stereo or MS is actually going to give you more detail and more manipulation in the post-production, which I believe also is like where you create the magic of ambisonics. That said, there is this little caveat because this company called Schups came up with this amazing microphone called the ORT F3D. So it really rolls off the tongue, that one. And it's redefined spatial audio, and that uses essentially 8 of these little microphones in this big boom. It's in the background there. It's this big UFO-looking thing. But boy, I've held one, and I wouldn't want to have it on a big, long pole for more than 10 minutes because it is a beast. So again, until the technology catches up and people really spend time R&Ding these kind of spatial capture devices, it doesn't necessarily mean that by using ambisonics mics, you're going to get the best results, especially for stuff that you need to manipulate and change a lot of. But for scene-specific stuff, it can be very useful to create a really nice ambient bed, as I will show you in some of my examples. Mixing in ambisonics. We are moving swiftly through this, guys. I am so happy. Oh shit, it's not that swift. I personally am a fan of Cubase and Nuendo. It has some really great features, some of which obviously it's not free. It's kind of expensive, probably around $800 last time I checked for Cubase, and maybe $1,500 for Nuendo. Although most of the stuff I do, I just use Cubase because it works, and I just prefer it. I don't know why. What's great about it, it can go up to 3rd order ambisonics, which really does give you a much higher level of detail than 1st order ambisonics, and you can convert from 3rd order down to 1st order if your playout system is only able to handle that Unity. But what's great about it is that it kind of handles all your encoding and decoding natively. You don't even really have to think about it. If you've created a 3rd order ambisonics project, you pop a source in there and it just allows you to pan it in the 3 dimensions of the ambisonic bus, and you don't think about it. Obviously, you can still use third-party plugins to increase the power of that panning, as I'll show you shortly. Then Reaper is really actually at the forefront of all of this immersive audio technique. It's got the most advanced pipeline. Beg your pardon? Okay. It's free-ish. It costs $60 for a personal license, but you can use an unlimited time demo. It's a great tool for making music, soundscapes, audio editing, batch processing, you name it. It's kind of mostly open source apart from some of the proprietary licenses for MP3s and a couple of the other higher level stuff. And what's great about it is you can get this Ambisonics toolkit, which is a free plugin suite that allows you to tackle ambisonics in various formats. There are also a bunch of other free plugins that allow you to go up to 7th order, like this SSA and IEM and a few others that I'll post some links for on the chat. Now, Pro Tools, I haven't done much immersive audio with. I believe using Pro Tools Ultimate, you can get up to 3rd order ambisonic buses, but you do need to use third-party plugins, some of which the Facebook 360 plugins will work, as well as your and not all manufacturers make for Pro Tools plugin, which I think is RTAS now. It could have changed its format. Ableton Live's also a great program. Not super familiar with it, but I know they have this envelope-free app that is based on the Max MSP, and Logic Pro has the Dolby Atmos Music Panner. Not a big fan. I know it's only very recently been introduced with the new Mac M1s, and I haven't done much insight. When I get a Mac M1, I will try out the Ambisonics and Logic Pro and give you more info on that. But yeah, you can also feel free to DM me or whatever, hit me up if you've got more questions on those specific mixing apps. Is anybody using any of these? Has anybody got interest in any of these?
Reaper.
Yeah, Reaper all the way.
Yeah, man.
Reaper and Ableton sound great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reaper and Nuendo, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Glad to hear some enthusiasm. So we're going to check out some examples. Let's start with Reaper, as it is sort of a bit more accessible to get in through the door. No pun intended there.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can I make a question? Because maybe since you're going through them, I was interested also in the path of live stuff. I don't know if there is like if you can use this DOS to make that, or if you would need another software.
Definitely it is possible. I haven't done a lot of it. Most of the stuff that I've been doing is in the studio, post-production based. But yes, with a powerful enough computer, and most of the modern sound cards are able to get really low latencies. And most of these plugins are not super heavy on CPU, because although the math is a bit complicated, there isn't a lot of calculations being done over and above, like a reverb or some of the heavy dynamics processing. So you can definitely use Reaper with, say, the Ambisonics toolkit to create ambisonic immersive mixes live and then output them to custom speaker arrays. I can even show you a little bit of that in Reaper as well, which I haven't prepped, but it's so easy. There's a thing called a multi-panner that allows you to move some sounds around to very specific speakers. So there's levels of it. You can make it very simple, or you can make it very complex, depending on how advanced your speaker listening environment is, and how far you want to push it, I suppose.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Super. So what we're going to be looking at... Yeah.
I was also going to say for live and ambisonics, I would say to go like above 5th order for like a large multi-channel array. Just if you're thinking of doing like ambisonics live, it's definitely a good sort of rule of thumb.
Yeah. Look, I haven't gone quite that far in the live implementation, but I've worked a little bit with the Lisa, which is the Acoustics sound art, immersive sound art app, and the D&B Soundscapes. I've had a look at that, and we'll take a look at those towards the end if we get time. So I'll just have to scream through some of this stuff. And yeah, so there are ways of using pre-existing software, but it is such bleeding edge technology that you've either got to make do with some of the free stuff and make it work for your purposes, or you've got to go really high end and invest a lot in some of these more robust mixing engines. Yeah, so let's see. Cool, what we're going to look at here. If I push the right button, I should be able to get to Reaper here. And what I'm going to do is just copy this link into the Discord, because I couldn't get the bloody Discord to play stereo nicely. So if you do want to listen to this audio stream, it is here on the Discord. Be like a high quality audio stream for you, I hope. Let's make sure I'm streaming. Start streaming there. And we can take a look at this is a video that was made. It's over under, and it's mostly like a background sound. So what I'm going to focus on here is the lead voice, which is a singer called Zandi Tlachwayo. And what I've done is I've basically used this focus panner. I've also used some traditional, because it's a mono track, like an EQ, a de-esser, a compressor, and we've got this panner. So just to show you quickly what the Ambisonics toolkit comprises of, the nice thing with Reaper, you can just show all your plugins of a specific kind. As you can see, a lot of these things are decoders, so it'll decode first order ambisonics into 5.1 binaural, ambix, blah, blah, blah. Then it'll be able to encode from first order to all of these different styles, and I'll show you a little trick that I used back in the day before I had nice plugins, on how to take the ambisonics into 5.1 reverb, and then the 5.1 reverb back into ambisonics. And then these transform plugins are really what you're going to be using to manipulate the sound in the spatial plane. So I used this transform focus, which the focus press push zoom, which gives you this really cool effect. I mean, it looks amazing. It sounds pretty good too. And it essentially allows you to take a comb filter and spread the sound out with like a reflection around you to give you that spatial feeling of sound on your left.
Should we be hearing something?
Okay, no, I'm running the stream now. Sorry, I was just showing you with my eyes. There we go. Cool. So that's on the left. You won't hear this on Discord, but yes, you'll hear it on the stream. And that should give you some nice rights. It's also got an elevation. So okay, so that's exciting stuff. But just to give you a bit more insight into how we set this up, there are quite a lot of examples on the Ambisonic Toolkit page, and they've actually done some tutorial videos there now as well, so that can get you going a lot quicker. But the bottom line is that you have a 4-channel track. So this is a mono mic. It was 8 singers singing at once, so it's a single channel of audio in mono going into a 4-channel track. I think you push this and it shows you there. I've got channels 1 to 4 on track channels 1 to 4. And that is then going to a 4-channel group, which is being processed with nothing. And that's going to the master. And on the master, I've got some limiters running. They're actually stereo limiters. As I said, this was one of my first Ambisonics projects. And I used them. What you can do is you can actually route them. You can see this one's 3 and 4, and this one is 1 and 2. So I used 2 stereo limiters to limit 4 channels. Then what you've got to make sure you've got is you've got your binaural decoder. So this is allowing us to then decode the ambisonics down into a left-right binaural field. There are also decoders for stereo. And within here, just another note for binaural listening, there are lots of presets for different ear shapes and sizes, because we're all unique. And there are some apps like Immersive that allow you to choose your ear shapes, choose your head size, things like that. But I'm just going on this sort of standard large Panay dummy, because that's sometimes what I feel like. So again, I'll just show you this little signal chain of the reverb that I'm using, which is on a send from the singer. You can see the send here. And it's a bit of a workaround. So I've decoded the ambisonics into a 5-1. It's then going into a 5-1 reverb, which is then going into a 5-1 to ambisonics up mixer again. So that actually works quite well. I now have some better reverbs that are more multi-channel. But again, you can just play around with these tools and find things that work. You don't necessarily have to go out and buy a huge, expensive plugin suite just to do one small job. It's the great thing about these tools is that it gets you interested and it gets you understanding the signal flow and the workflow behind immersive audio, and helps you grow with that. So we can listen to all the tracks. There was not a hell of a lot of automation in this because I recorded 8 separate voices. I sort of positioned each one in different spheres, so we can just look at different guys. I use different tools and give them the different positions in the space with sort of different spreads. Wow, there's a lot of plugins here. And that one's like right above you, so you can actually transform things with elevation as well and make them above and below you. But it doesn't give you a great representation. But again, for free tools, they are really, really amazing and versatile and give you a great insight into how we can do things. So I'm just going to play this quickly through so we can take a listen to the beautiful song, or maybe not the whole thing, but just a few seconds of it.
Where can we hear it other than the Discord? You said on stream?
Yeah, I've put a stream link on the workshop links. There's something that says audio listeners.
Cool, thanks.
Listen to audio movers, sorry. Yeah, listen to .audio movers session. Cool. So yeah, so there you see this is another.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a cool tool. So that's just a rotation. So I just spun the whole thing around. It's also got like tilt, so you can tilt left to right, and some tumble, so that's front and back. So just using these basic tools, you can just create beautiful movement and amazing effects, which I tend to find quite fun. So that's the basics of this first order ambisonics toolkit, which, as I said, is a great way to get into some ambisonics. Did I record an ambisonics track? Oh, look, there's actually an ambisonics track here that I recorded, which was just the papers. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, these guys throwing the papers. Sorry, the video quality. I need a new graphics card on this machine. But here, yeah, it's literally just a bit of compression, and it's just the AmbiX going straight to the bus. And it's kind of cool. It's got like a nice spatial thing. Oh, sorry, this video is so trashy. Must be because I'm recording in OBS. It was playing smoothly earlier, I promise, boss. So cool. That is Reaper and the Ambisonics Toolkit, more or less. Have you got any questions or comments on that?
Reaper's like $60 or something, right? It's cheap.
Yes, it's $60, but you can run the demo, as far as I know, forever.
Yes, it
Yeah,
has no copy protection at all.
even gives you like a running days, so you can actually see how long you've been using it for, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was pretty bleak when I got the license. It's like no one could see how many days I've been using Reaper.
Well, there,
On that
Well
image,
worth the $60.
it
Big
is.
time, yeah. It's crazy value.
And I think I think I got 10 years out of my first license before I needed to buy another license for the next version. So that's
Yeah,
Lex,
it's crazy.
Lex, the previewing of the stereoscopic video, do you have like other kind of modes so you can like visually see where you put the sound?
that's what we're going to look at now. So I'm going to close Reaper for now, but that's just one of the basic sort of things. So there's this other great is also a strong word. There's another tool that you can use, which is called the Facebook 360. It was actually developed by a company called Two Big Ears, TBEs. So you actually get TBE files, and this has a lot more integration into your object-based panning on top of the video. So as we can see here, it's a pretty basic video. I've got my ambisonics track. I think I'm a bit zoomed out. You could do this in Reaper as well, or Pro Tools. So there's my 4-channel ambisonics track. Here's a single lapel that we recorded. And here's my music track. So as you can see with Cubase, you can get it's a lot more intuitive, and it should show me, if I push this button, my top and bottom sort of thing here. It'll actually show me front and back, and then I can also pan it up and down. It's just a bit more control. And this is a third order spatializer. So when we look at this video here, hopefully it'll play nicely. Oh shit, sorry, I must just start the stream again. Beg your pardon, I can't stream 2 at once. That is my email. I am Philip Miller. Don't worry about it. Sorry, here's another stream link. The joys of
I'm gonna
collab.
report you to the internet police.
Well, he's
Sure loves
my,
that.
one of my collaborators. You know, we collaborate a lot. So he happens.
Sure.
I think he accidentally bought a year license, which I'm just using because why not? So here's some cool Muscandia music, and I'll let the video speak for itself, and I'll show you this panner here. Make sure I'm on the right one. It looks like it. Yep. And this is going to be the vocal mic for the lapel, and hopefully it'll give you some insight. I'll skip through because he does talk a lot of shit.
A big hello in Sambonani. I'm Nicolas Bauer from Lala and J. And in proud partnership with the Irish Embassy in South Africa, we're about to take you on a virtual reality 360-degree tour of Johannesburg, covering all angles of the Irish history in the City of Gold.
So that might look familiar, some of those pictures. You'll just, I think around here he starts to move around.
To South Africa.
So watch
And
this
that's where
blue
you get to
dot.
hear stories of larger-than-life characters like big game hunters, nature conservationists, and even revolutionaries coming to South Africa. It's hard to believe that so few Irish men and women have called South Africa their home, but had such a huge impact on the country's history. Some 38,000 Irish citizens now call South Africa their home today. So before we take you on this Irish and Gaelic gallivant of Johannesburg, complete with a wee bit of Irish weather, let me talk about exactly where we are now. Over there, you'll find the Telkom Tower. And there in the distance, if there weren't any clouds, you'd be able to see as far as Sandton, which is of course home to the richest square mile in Africa.
Woo,
Last but not least,
windy.
Ponty, where Lalange has 2 community centers where we provide a safe space for the children of the city of Johannesburg, funded by our tours of Johannesburg. So, let's begin.
Cool. So as you can see here, this is a much more accurate way of placing your sound sources. It's got quite a lot of mission to get it installed. You have to make sure you're on Python 2.7.0 and not anything else. And a couple other, I think there's a couple other things. There's a lot of installation instructions. You just got to follow them to the T. Once it's up and running, it's fairly stable. And the other fuck up with it, is that you need to encode the videos to an Avid codec, which has suddenly just skipped my mind. But it's like a huge video. So a sort of 10-minute video will probably be about 40-50 gigs, whereas the MP4 is only like 3 gigs. So those are the couple of issues with this, but what's really great with it is also gives you, at least in Cubase it does, I haven't got this working in Reaper yet, but it gives you head tracking as well. So when you plug your VR headset in, you can actually move your head around and experience the sound moving around with your head tracking for the 360 video as you would on the internet. So in a lot of ways, this is a much more robust way of working, especially for specific things. Whereas like if you're creating ambient soundscapes for Unity, the Ambisonics toolkit's great. But if you're doing like 360 videos, this is way better. And what it also gives you are some, if I can find my mixer here, it gives you this control plugin, which allows you to again change your global room, so to speak, like how you position this thing in terms of distance and space, and also this little speaker shows you where the video is pointing, the big video. It allows you to then also fold down to binaural if your DAW doesn't give you that option, which Cubase does in my case. It shows you there. It folds down to binaural. And it gives you some other stuff that I was going to show you here. It's this loudness meter. Oh no, that's the control thing, and this is the loudness meter. So it actually shows you that
Irish missionaries that came to South Africa to provide not only religious services, but health and education to both black and white people.
Yeah, so it gives you some good information about your volumes, which is really important when you're trying to be competitive. It sums your W signal and makes sure that your loudness is all good. And the beauty of this as well is that you can then export your 360, your third order ambisonics into a WAV file. So I'll just quickly run you through that as well, what you do now once you've got that. It's pretty straightforward, fortunately.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does, when you're mixing the spatial audio stuff in this way, are you aiming for kind of the industry standard of LUFS, like loudness full scale, or is it different?
Yes. It's basically minus 23, as you can see here. Oops, that's the wrong one. On this loudness meter.
23.
Oh, minus 18. Sorry, it's a minus 18 LUFS.
Okay, so a little quieter than the minus 14.
Yeah, bearing in mind that you've got 9 channels, and YouTube will probably like loudness normalize you again. So
and if it's summed, it'll get louder.
Yeah, and I mean, you can set it there if you want. You can aim for wherever you like, but depending on your output thing, you can probably do a bit of research and see. I normally, especially, again, it also depends on your program material. I think with dialogue, a little softer is a bit better. You get a bit more dynamic range, whereas if you're doing like hardcore EDM, I'd probably bump it up to like minus 10 or minus 12, you know.
Okay, that is better.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Louder's better. Cool. Good question. So here's our little Facebook encoder, which is absolutely invaluable and probably the best part of this whole suite, although the suite's not bad. Again, it's free. What it allows you to output to Facebook 360, 180, and YouTube videos, bearing in mind that YouTube still, as far as I know, are only first order ambisonics. I haven't tried the Rift Oculus video because I don't know enough people with Rifts. So it can also, you can convert to your first order, and some people ask for these TBE files for whatever reason. I'm not sure. It is some kind of standard. And essentially what you do is you say, okay, in this case is third order ambi X, and I'm going to just load my file in there. Why is it not on my, I moved it, that's why, sorry. It was on the network and now it's not. So here's my third order ambisonics. You see I called it TOA, third order ambisonics. Pop it in there. Headlock stereo. So you can actually have a second stereo wave file that stays static. And that's also an important thing with the loudness, to make sure that your headlock stereo is considered in that loudness, which that little plugin allows you to do. And that sort of stays around your head on the left and the right, no matter where you turn your head. And that's what it means by headlocked. We can then pop our nice video in here, which in this case was the MP4 and not the DVX Avid shitty codec thing. It's in the documentation. And then all you do is you hit encode, and it then muxes your third order ambisonic WAV into the video file as AAC MPEG ready thing, and that'll play super sweet on your Go's, on your Oculuses as standalone videos, or on Facebook with your spatial audio correctly orientated to your video, which is great. And you can actually tweak some of the focus stuff, which is kind of interesting as well. I haven't done much of that yet. And then it's pretty quick, but really good way to get ambisonic audio into your video as a final thing. So, wow, we've been doing not bad for time. I got a couple minutes left. Let's chat quickly about, those are all my examples. I'll post these links in the Discord here. So these are some other plugins that you can look at. The Sparta is free, as are IEM. DVR's got a great reverb. Some of these are really expensive, but you can check them out at your own time and leisure. So the live implementation, obviously Dolby Atmos is a very popular format, and being able to send your ambisonics into a Dolby Atmos environment is quite useful. So if you are mixing in ambisonics, you can put that into a deliverable of 7.1.4 with the right decoders, because they want you to think it's exclusive and only Dolby can do it, but it's not true. Lisa's another really good one. It uses object-based mixing to have these objects, and you can use it again with these linear wavefront synthesis speakers. The DNB Soundscapes, as I mentioned earlier, has also got a really cool engine to do that sort of thing. The caveat with these is that you need a lot of speakers with a lot of amp channels. Flux Spat is also super high-end, expensive, but it gives you so many options and gives you spatial orientation with acoustic simulation, and you can put different speaker models in and do all sorts of things. I'm not going to talk about this too much, but essentially wave field synthesis is a great way of having lots of little speakers and creating a surround sound. It's basically what they do with the sound bars on your TV, which is a cool way to make surround sound without having speakers behind you. So I thought that was just an interesting thing to talk about. We're implementing ambisonics in Unity that only supports up to first order at the moment. Oh, sorry, those are great quotes. Your 360 is, yes, first order on YouTube and second order on Facebook. As far as I know, they've got an 8-channel proprietary algorithm, but it's about second order. And then, of course, you can have your standardized playback configs for your 5.1 surround sound home theaters and binaural headphones and gaming rigs, or you can build your custom speaker arrays. I didn't get really into that in Reaper this time, but we can talk about it sometime. If you DM me, we can chat about it. It's really easy to build a little speaker array with the multi-panner, and you can use it as a great way to mix your sources into the multiple speakers. Cool. What people are saying. Lenny Listener likes to listen to music and sound that feels natural and omnipotent, whereas Eric Mix-a-Lot thinks immersive audio feels like magic, and surround sound thinks the potential for integration are huge. They have listened and have spoken, and you should too. Let's jump into VR chat and see how we could all listen better together. Thanks, guys. This is my little prezzo, and I just want to also thank all the guys at the MVC who've inspired me and kept me engaged with this immersive audio and immersive technologies. Yeah, man, every Thursday I look forward to. Totally. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Thank you. That was amazing. Excellent
Nice one.
presentation.
Cool.
Really nice.
Yeah,
I
it was
don't know how you
great.
break it down.
Super good, man. Nice one.
Thanks,
Great,
guys.
great to learn about the ambisonics. Do you do much of the stuff in VR chat where it's spatialized? It's not ambisonics, but you're able to move around through the sources and so on.
Yeah.
I've used a few of the spatialized plugin things before with Unity, and I'm just finding it a little lean on what's possible in VR chat, and I'm wondering if you know of any. Are there any plugins you can use with it, or we're just are they planning anything? Do you know anything about that stuff? Just in terms of being able to have, you know, area sound sources and reverb spaces and what?
Tone-tastic.
It exists.
Yeah, it exists, and Tone-tastic did a great tutorial not so long ago, more based on the Unity sound engine. There is quite a lot you can do with it from the stuff that I have looked at. Again, having better sources is going to give you more flexibility. So if you can build your ambisonic globes, you'll be able to do all of that fancy stuff in your DAW and then implement that quite easily into Unity. There's a very cool world that we can go and take a look at that actually shows you the difference between a mono, stereo, and ambisonic sound source in VR chat. So there is quite a lot of scope in the Unity audio engine. It's just a case of applying that. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
So, sorry, what's the tutorial that you talked about?
Which tutorial? Oh, one of our members, Tone-tastic, did one a while back. I'm not sure if it's on the YouTube link, but maybe we can see if we can dredge it up. I know he's listening. He's really great at implementing audio in Unity. Yeah. So
Okay, thanks.
I
We'll look it up.
I have a little question. In
Sure.
terms of localization, what's your favorite plugin? Like I use DVR and I'm pretty happy with it, but
yes,
what's your experience?
I wanted to chat on DVR. You'll see it is in my list of links. DVR is fantastic. I love the way that it gives the reverb and reflections to the space, and I know it's also compatible with Unity, but not the VRChat SDK. I really like some of the IEM plugins. They're quite robust, and they've got a lot of like good multi-channel dynamics processing. The drawback I have with DVR is that it's only single source, so you can choose the left or the right of a stereo file. So it's not great for taking something that's already got spatialized, let's say left and right information, and then putting that into your bigger sphere. For that, I actually just use the Cubase panners, and I've been using the exponential audio reverbs, which are really, really powerful. They've got multi-channel, I think also up to like 5th order ambisonics, and that gives you the spatialization. They're not super cheap, but honestly, for me, they're the best sounding reverbs that I've heard in quite a while, and I listen to a lot of
Yes, they're
reverbs.
so good.
Yeah.
And there's also, if you want to do your own hacky one, you can get the R4, like the stereo version, and then create multi-channel patches in Reaper. And then in Reaper, there's a cool feature where you can actually link parameters. So you can, so for instance, like Lex had the master limiter on both, you know, ambisonic channels, but you can actually link those so you can control them almost as like one module with a bit of offset and stuff. So like for a reverb, maybe you want to have like some of the sounds like a bit more delayed, some of them not. You can adjust like a little kind of offsets, and then like you can control that with one knob, which I think is like, it's a hacky way if you can't get the exponential plugins, because those are pretty pricey.
R2's on special at Plugin Boutique. It's $10, I think.
Yeah, and Nimbus.
Today. Yeah. You get Nimbus and
Super
R2
nice plugins, man.
For $10.
Yeah, really nice.
So check out Plugin Boutique if you're looking for some good reverbs.
Definitely.
The Reaper JS ATK on that little image you showed, it said that it also works in other DAWs on PC. Do you know if it works in Ableton or if anyone is doing that?
Yes, it would. If it's VST plugins, I see, VST Windows that supports VST, so it would do. I just haven't gone down that rabbit hole in Ableton.
I see.
Yeah.
You just might have the problem that
Thanks.
you just can use in stereo and not multi-channel channels. That was a problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the multi-channel support in Ableton. I think maybe the new one has better stuff. I know a lot of the DAWs are jumping on the immersive audio bandwagon quite recently, you know, in the last few months.
Yeah. Well, if they don't have it now, they'll probably get around to it.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I know Envelop audio, they've got like a third order implementation, and so I'm pretty sure it's there. But I'm the same. I just use Reaper mostly.
Okay.
Cool.
Lex, can I squeak in one last question?
Sure, with pleasure.
Do you have any opinion about binaural audio or ASMR, just by any chance?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Could you gently stroke your mic while you say that, please?
Well, it's been some time since I've watched those ASMR videos. But yeah, I mean, binaural is a very powerful tool. I must say, when the girls lick those rubber ears, it does do something to me personally. It's not for everyone. Yeah, no, I like the concept of it, and I've seen some really amazing theater pieces. There was this great, I'll have to think of the name, but a guy basically had a binaural microphone on the stage and created this incredible sound stage when he walked around it and whispered into the ears and created, and all the audience were wearing headphones, and it was this really beautiful theater piece. So the applications for binaural are profound, and I think we've only just started scratching the surface of it, because it really it sparks the imagination in ways that are so lifelike and realistic. So in terms of ASMR, I mean, it's you're either into it or you aren't, I think.
Thanks, Lex.
You're welcome. I'm going to stroke my stream deck now and see you in
So we're doing a hangout after.
Yeah,
afterwards?
we're gonna
Okay,
jump
VR
in.
chat?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And for the PC users, I
Awesome.
will jump into the that sound world. I'll put a portal and we can just go take a look. I mean,
yeah.
it's
we should
pretty
meet up
basic.
with the Questies friends a little bit first. Maybe.
Yeah, good
There's
call.
any.
Lois, you are such
Yeah,
a gentleman.
Clubhouse.
Such
Let's
a
hit the
gentleman. sir.
Clubhouse first.
I'm thinking of our Quest peers who are left alone every time.
Yeah. Anyway, but for those interested, I'll put actually let me find it and I'll put a link on
Awesome.
the Discord. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Lovely.
It's very good.
I'll see you.
Hey, and congrats on filling up the room.
Yeah. Oh, what can I say? I'll just leave your camera on. It's surefire.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lex. That was great.
Thanks again.
Super.
Thanks a lot.
Can't believe how
Thank you
quickly the
very
time went. Thanks, guys.
See everyone in VR chat.